This is the log of... You know what? It doesn't really matter. By the time you're listening to this, I'll most likely be dead. To my knowledge, I'm the last surviving civilian of the Civilian Empire. Our once mighty empire spanned all of known space. Countless galaxies have been under our control for 23 million years, giving or take a dozen centuries. Our downfall was underestimating a single race. Humans, as they were called. Like most species, the Civilian Empire sought to conquer. We sent a tiny vanguard fleet of 7 dreadnoughts, 12 carriers, 42 escort ships, and 127 support vessels, with 90 billion ground troops, 23 billion tanks, and 11 billion fighters. I'm leaving out the exact numbers, as I'm sure you can find those in other records. The humans, to their credit, did put up a fight. They launched every weapon they had that could leave their planet's gravity well, and impressively took out a single fighter. Most species don't even manage to get past our fighter shields with nukes. The ground fight is where things really dragged on. Most of the major governments realized the futility of fighting a war, and started trying diplomacy. But we needed bodies to work. It was the humans who lived away from the major cities that put up the most resistance. We lost thousands of soldiers when they discovered their more primitive firearms could pierce our troops' armor. They were drones, so it wasn't much of a concern. However, the humans told us it would be more efficient to leave them and enclose the remote areas they were hiding than to sacrifice 1,000 drones to capture hundreds, which wasn't worth it. The logic was sound. Plus, if they repopulated enough, we could always come back and capture more. We found the humans to be average. Average in strength, dexterity, and intelligence. However, they excelled at 2 things: survivability and creativity. They could survive and even thrive in some of the harshest environments in the Civilian Empire, and their ability to come up with solutions quickly, while not being the most efficient, was good at stopping problems from escalating. Over time, generations of humans started doing something no other species had done. They started integrating with civilian culture. We can't even pinpoint where humans and civilians were first seen as equals in the Empire. Even a species-wide DNA modification was performed to allow for genetic compatibility, as humans reproduce faster than civilians. Humans had gone from the top of the drone workforce to being supervisors, factory managers, ship captains, and even politicians in a few rare cases. It was something that was alarming when we realized how close humans were to taking over. That was when the Purge happened. Humans were stripped of authority and positions and forced to go back to the drone leadership roles they had before. Of course, they did not like this, and it was the key to our downfall. For you see, the humans knew it was coming, and did something we had not expected. They created parallel networks and systems to our own that were locked behind the unique DNA code that was left behind after the modifications. DNA that controlled physical primary characteristics that would allow for humans and half-humans to be quickly identified from pure civilians. They used these systems to plot and scheme behind our backs and in front of our faces. Drones, humans we thought were loyal, gathering information to share with the others. They rerouted shipments every so often, and built a hidden fleet in the void between galaxies where we wouldn't see. All were preparing for their uprising. Even with 1,000,000 years, they would never be able to create a fleet that would rival our own, so they made a plan and sent their message. Free the drones, or we will use M.A.D. We had thought the humans who sent the message were beyond primitive, and had no idea what they were planning. Message after message, and we ignored it. Then, the attack started. Hit and run, damaging critical infrastructure and killing those in leadership. In response, we began rounding humans up and executing them in mass, but it only made things worse. For every human we killed, 10 civilians were killed. They targeted those in positions of power, which I believe they thought was a mercy to those who had none. They also launched 2 attacks for each human killed. As the last attempt at subjugation, Earth was bombarded from space until it became a barren wasteland. Then, they used M.A.D. A lone human made his way through the Kirillak 7 station. He was coughing and bleeding on the floor everywhere he went until he got to the dock. He was stopped by station security, and that was when he revealed what he had done. Raising a hand, he dropped a glass vial that had been broken. He cut his hand open with it. He cried out justice for humanity before screaming in pain. A black fluid oozed from his eyes, ears, and nose as he fell to the floor. No one knew it was too late for every civilian and human on that station. Well, maybe the humans knew. They stood there in solemn silence, as if they knew what was coming next. See, humanity wanted to create a virus that would kill off every civilian, but the genetic modifications done centuries ago were not easily outdone, and human DNA was now too close to civilian. They couldn't create a virus to kill us without killing themselves. So that is what they chose. Death over servitude. That nameless human was the first to die on that station, but he wasn't the last. Soon, both humans and civilians were getting sick and dying in the same manner. The virus was airborne, and the humans had disabled the air sanitation system, so it spread to every point. Drones of other species were informed of what was going on, and given control of the station. In their final breath, the humans of Kirillak 7 freed their fellow drones. That wasn't the end of their attack, like we had hoped. We thought they made a mistake while engineering the virus and were in fear of it killing themselves along with us. Though, even if it had been, I'm sure we would have exterminated their entire species for it. Spreading it through infected humans wasn't their only plan. They hid it in the programs of the food synthesizer. Other species could be hosts to the virus without even knowing it, though most knew, and using their hidden fleet would go from system to system, planet to planet, spreading the virus on any planet capable of sustaining civilian life without habitats or environmental suits. Before we knew it, 95% of the civilians in the Empire had been infected, and there was no time to research a cure. The only problem was even the ones who could survive the virus would be infectious, and their descendants would be as well. No, the remaining civilians are too spread out to repopulate. Even if we did, there are no safe planets to colonize. The drones started to rise up and hunt us down for what we did to them. From what I have gathered, a majority of humans died off as well, and they are also unable to make contact with other species without risk of dying. Maybe some pure humans survived the destruction of Earth. It had been quarantined since humanity was first integrated, until enough of a population had been found to justify a harvest. Maybe the modified humans figured out a way to get past the quarantine, to save their genetic ancestors before the planet was made devoid of life. They deserve it if they did, after all. They brought down the mightiest empire the universe had seen, and did it by using mutually assured destruction.